Hello everybody, and welcome to the daily reflection on awake and aware eating and living. I wanted to talk today about slowing down, and I wanted to talk about it in the context of needing it for recovery from unhealthy eating, food addiction. For me it's food addiction, plain and simple. Just hit my camera there. So I wanted to talk about, for me, I have food addiction, which has a huge impact on my brain. I used to think that the only consequence of my eating was, I did definitely feel unwell, but I also, would gain weight. But I learned through lots of scientific research that's out there that there's a process that goes on in the brain with addiction that actually is a brain disease. It's actually damaging the brain. It's damaging the ability for the brain to function, to cope, to make decisions, to think clearly. It has a huge impact, especially as we get older, especially the longer we have it. And there's a great DVD that taught me this, along with some other things that I highly recommend, that really explains what happens in the brain with addiction. And this particular DVD is about drug addiction, but it applies to food addiction, sugar addiction, flour addiction. It applies to other things. They do talk about drugs. It's called Memo to Self, and it was done by Kevin McCauley, so I highly recommend it. So when I came to realize what was happening to me in my brain and in my body with the way I was eating, I was able to look at myself as someone who was sick, physically sick, like having the flu, like having cancer, and needing treatment. And that was really, really helpful. And part of the treatment, a huge part, is not using substances that cause the brain to malfunction. And for me, when it comes to food, it's any form of sugar other than a little bit of fruit every day. Any type of flour. For me, it's also wheat. And it's also high quantities of food, eating volume, eating more than 2 servings of food at any given time. And a serving of food for me was a lot smaller than I thought it was, as far as what an actual serving is. So that's one of the biggest parts of my treatment plan, is to stop eating those foods completely, not to wean off of them, but to stop completely. And it's going to be uncomfortable for a few days. It was uncomfortable for more than a few days. I really felt like I had the flu for real. But the other part of it is to slow down, to do one thing at a time as much as possible, to really think about the day ahead each and every day and not schedule too many things. And unfortunately, that comes through a lot of trial and error. It comes through overscheduling, overdoing, turning back to food and going, oops, well, I can't do that again. Over and over and over for me, unfortunately. So really, again, it comes through lots of experience of turning back to food and knowing that something short-circuited in my brain while that craving came back. And for me, many times it was either a lack of connection with others, which really helps to increase good brain chemistry, or it was getting too tired, doing too much, getting too stressed, trying to talk on the phone while I eat lunch, while I drive the car, those kind of things. Trying to juggle taking care of somebody and needing to get off the phone, but not being able to go, I need to get off the phone. I've got to leave for an appointment. Like really noticing things that stress me, things that create tension in my body, things that kind of short circuit my brain. And so, I want to share this message of slowing down. I thought my life would seem really vacant. I thought it would seem less than ideal if I slowed down, if I took things out. And that's not what's happened at all. It's number one, helped me to stick with my boundaries around food, which keeps me healthy and well. But it's also created this depth and this richness in my life, doing one thing at a time. When I'm talking to somebody, just be there talking to them. When I'm checking my email, just be there checking. It's really given this depth and richness to life that feels very meaningful and very fulfilling. And as with anything, there's that period in the beginning, whether it's putting down sugar, flour, and wheat, and volume food, whether it's slowing down, whether it's having more connection. There's that period, that initial period where it's uncomfortable, it's foreign, it doesn't feel right. But that does pass. It did for me anyway. And a lot of the people that I've sponsored, that I've coached, that I've taught, that I've connected with around this, a lot of what trips them up is their unwillingness to slow down, their unwillingness to say no to people, their unwillingness to displease anyone because they're terrified of that. I see it over and over and over again. They're not willing to slow down. And it takes a long time to figure out what that means to each one of us, how much we can handle before we get pushed over the edge. So I hope this helps somebody else. Again, as always, it helps me to talk about it, to say it out loud. It reinforces in me this new learning that I've had, this new way of living that's foreign at first, but I've gotten used to it, and I actually appreciate it and love it. And I'm really grateful now for my food addiction because it's led me to this. So again, I hope this helps somebody else. And until the next time, I hope you have lots of awakenings and lots of awareness about what you need in your life, about what's going to help you to have a more meaningful, fulfilling living experience.